All right, let's get down to business. American Horror Stories. I'm telling you guys right now, that's a mess. It's a mess. That's a mess, Ryan Murphy. That's a mess. If there was any mess that you've ever seen in your life, times that by 100, and that's what you just put on Hulu. That was a mess. I made my American Horror Stories is whack video, link is in the description, like a few weeks ago, like prior to Pharaoh and Game Over. And I just want to talk about that before I get into what this video is really about, which is ranking every American Horror Story season and the reason why I ranked them that way. But before we get into that, let me talk about Pharaoh. Pharaoh was terrible. A lot of people were like, oh, that guy that's in it, Cody Fern, he is a very good actor. He picks up the slack that Jessica Lange dropped. Everyone who doesn't appear regularly anymore, you'll notice when I rank them how the show starts lacking something. Now, I want to precipice. There's a difference between camp. There's a difference between camp and cringe. You can be campy a certain way, like on the first episode of what's it called, or the second episode, I don't remember, Rubber Woman. Oh, I went dark. That was situational. That was ridiculous, but it was camp still. Cheyenne is very good at camp, or whatever that guy's name is. I'm pretty sure his name's Cheyenne. But one of the fathers in the Rubber Woman, we didn't even get to see them again when they died, when they like went to heaven or whatever. But let's talk about Pharaoh. Was terrible. It's terrible. People try to make it seem like because Cody Fern was there, he like uplifted the whole show. Just like Ball, they thought that Billy Lord lifted up the show. She just brought what should be brought regularly. She did what needed to be done regularly. She cannot carry the whole show. Jessica Lange can't carry a whole show. There's pillars that go into how great the show is. And they're all lacking, except the Rubber Woman, part 1 and part 2 was the best. Interestingly enough, had one of the worst actresses on that episode. Ironically, we didn't really see much of Paris Jackson in the final Game Over, but she was a better actress than the mom, than the little boy that I can't stand. Like, that's ridiculous. He's so dumb. He's like, oh, I hate you for dying. Like, what? You're going to yell at your mom for dying? Oh, it's because you're upset. Like, I cannot believe that. And then it's not real. It's not real. So you played the it's not real twice. Once is, you're not, I think he would take offense to this. I consider Ryan Murphy very prideful. I don't know him personally, but his crap comes off the way he put so boldly American Horror Stories on Hulu, episodic like you could have did that on TV. Nothing was different. In fact, I think there was less blood on Hulu than there is actually on TV usually. I remember seeing more blood in American Horror Story than American Horror Stories, and it seems more commercialized. I don't know what he's trying to do. Maybe he's got something he needs to get paid off, and that's why he did this crap. And I think it's hilarious that Ryan Murphy thinks so little of the canon, of the fandom, that he's made this strange loser that's horrible to his mother a representation like it's us. It's gross. And it was a mess. And because you're arrogant, you made an arrogant mess. Sit in it. And can you believe they put all those things like, oh, look at all these people that are returning. They thought we were going to see Tate Langdon. We just saw whoever was in that rubber suit. It wasn't old dude. It wasn't Evan Peters. It was not Evan Peters because they would have made him take off that mask. It was not Evan Peters. It was the light guy. It was the guy that gets their lattes or something. It was some random dude. He did not come back. Just to let you guys know, he did not come back. That girl, that's that girl's sister or mom or daughter or whatever. I don't know. They look like mother and daughter, but they could very well be sisters. She's not there. The girl that played Violet, she's not there. The only person who came back was the campiest person in the cast, talking about, oh, I just cry after I masturbate. And she's like, what? And he's like, nothing. That was crazy. How would he know that? It's just crazy. It's just how would the way they made Game Over. I liked the way it started. I liked the way it started, not as a game. I liked the way it could have been a dream sequence where Twisty was there and Bloody Face was there in the murder house. That was so cool. to make it a game and be like, game over. Like, and then that son that was so brat-like, he was a brat. That boy right there is a brat. He's like, I'm going to dad's because I can't get what I want from you. Like, that's manipulation. When you're going through a divorce, to say you're going to the other person's house solely because you don't get what you want, that's manipulation, and that's brat behavior. But I digress from that. I really don't want to really go any more into detail about American Horror Stories. I kind of want to just leave it in the past. I'm just letting you know, Ryan Murphy, it's a mess. Now let's talk about something that's not a mess. I am ranking every American Horror Story season. I'm telling you my rank and the position it is. Let me start from the best and get to the worst, because honestly, y'all already know. Minor spoilers, because I'm not going to go into great detail of these seasons because I will be making an individual video for each season. So Coven, I marked as the very first one. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It would have a 10 out of 10 if not the fact that they make this commentary about racism and then they do a racism. You can't do the racism and be like, well, we can't, like, I just feel like the black witches were not utilized before they were all killed by a white man. That's the biggest issue I have with that season, because why on earth are you gonna do this commentary about racism and say, well, all this happened racism, and then you do the racism? Ryan Murphy, you did the racism. Why were all the black witches killed by some white man? No one escaped. You didn't even leave us any hope that someone escaped. No one escaped. There was no hope for them. That's so not fair. The only person who escaped was Marie Laveau, and then she dies. Wow. Amazing. That was cool, right? Wrong. That was not cool. So it would get 10 out of 10 if not for the fact that that was really ridiculous. So nothing really much else to say about that one. Everyone knows who, if you're watching this, usually, hopefully, you've seen the show. I'm not gonna, like I said, if you want my overall opinion about that actual season, tune into the video of that season. I will be going from first to last. I won't be going in this order. So the next one is Asylum. I gave that one a 10 out of 10. I actually wanted to see more ethnic people, more ethnic faces, but this is like a powder pasty show for the most part. Anyway, this was in the very beginning. Asylum does get a 10 out of 10 because it has everything. It's got all the characters you need. And it would be nice to see more of Angela Bassett like she was in Coven, but I don't know if she was going to be on the show or not, because this was like the second one that they ever made. The third one on my list is Murder House, 10 out of 10. Prior to all this nonsense of, like, they should have just burned down the house in reality. The game over one, that should have been reality. It being a game, you successfully win. Like, what? That's so dumb. That was dumb, Ryan Murphy. That was a mess. But a Murder House has the formula of camp. There's no cringe. All of it's funny. When it's not camp and enjoyable that way, it is camp and comedy. When I tell y'all this is like the 4th or 5th time they've done this masturbation bit with Dylan McDermott, I tell you that's what it is. This is like the 5th time they've talked about it. The first time in Murder House, the first time it happened, when he masturbated out the window and then cried. The first time that happened, that was hilarious. It wasn't cringe. It was hilarious. The second time, it got cringe a little bit. The third time, it was cringe completely. 4th and 5th time, what do you expect from me? Murder House was one of the funniest, scariest ones. There's a balance of funny and scary. It kind of goes away. Coven is more scary than funny, as well as Asylum, because it's things that could happen to someone. And I'm not going to, like I said, minor spoilers. I'm not going to really be talking exactly about it. Hopefully you guys get to watch it before I make my video on it so that we can have a conversation about it. The 4th one I would like to say is my favorite, Freak Show, 9 out of 10. It has Flynwood, what's that dude's name? Flynwood something. He's like one of the best actors of the whole situation. He straight up brings so much to the table. He is like really good. The guy that plays Twisty is really good. He was treated terribly in this American Horror Stories, and unfortunately that guy that plays Twisty, he had one of the worst American Horror Stories episodes, because no one really is ever going to talk about that episode, the one with Pepper in it from Asylum. But she's not Pepper, she's somebody else. I don't know, I don't remember her name. Naomi, I think her name is Naomi. I follow her on Instagram. But Freak Show was kind of like the tipping of the scale between being very great and starting to lose a lot of points. I gave Freak Show a 9 out of 10 because, like I said, you notice that something is about to drop. Everyone knew at this point Jessica Lange was not going to be returning to American Horror Story regularly. So I guess that set up a precipice to lower your standards, Ryan Murphy, I guess, because he decided to add What's-Her-Face to the next season, which is ironically the next one in the category. Number 5 is Hotel. Now, Rob Lowe, that guy is a very good actor. Not Rob Lowe. His name's not Rob Lowe. That guy's name's something Lowe, I think. Something Lowe. Don't, like, I'll look it up. You could just go look it up yourself. It's that dude that plays the cop. That whole story about him being the killer, everyone knew it. Everyone saw it coming. Like, oh, you know, da-da-da-da. Like, I actually thought he was dead when I saw, but he was leaving, so he couldn't have been dead. But I liked the fact that What's-His-Face was using him as a pawn to kill people and finish his sacraments and whatnot. Evan Peters, I feel like that guy was one of his worst. And I think it's his best and worst at the same time. So Evan Peters is really good at playing the crazy dude. But when it's that H.H. Holmes-esque dude in Hotel, it kind of like gives me he's not an old guy. I would feel like the guy that played Liz Taylor would have played a better James March. He actually reminds me of Leon S. Kennedy, to be honest. And then when I made my What the Crap Is This Casting basically video, I may link it, I may not, because this has nothing to do with that. But straight up, I referenced him because I'm like, if you guys want a live action Leon S. Kennedy, he looks like it. I know he's a little bit older now, but still, I don't know, maybe if you want to use him for something else, like later down the line, like Resident Evil 6, y'all need to get that right, because Resident Evil 6 was the worst. People love to hate on Resident Evil 5 and say that one's the worst, but Resident Evil 6 is worse than Resident Evil 5, because I bet you anything, you know that you've got more hours played Resident Evil 5, and not because it's longer, because Resident Evil 6 has like 6 plot lines you have to go through, and they're each individual. They're all the same length or longer. But Resident Evil 5 was more enjoyable, and it had a better mercenaries mode. But Hotel gets a 7 out of 10 because something was missing with Hotel, and you can tell that it was busted up. What's-Her-Face, Sarah Paulson, is basically carrying the whole entire show on her back by now at this point, because everyone else is leaving. Dude that played that burnt up guy in Murder House that plays Liz Taylor, he's a very good actor, and I think that they should keep him on for a very long time. Like I said, there's like barely any black people. There's like no Asian people on the cast. Barely in, like, Ryan Murphy only loves to do diversity when it's sexuality, and not even for women. Like I said, I was really happy to see someone who was, because the Countess is bisexual. She's with men and with women, but not like, she didn't do it just for money. She did it because that was her sexuality. And one could say, oh, she's a lesbian, but she's not a lesbian. She's bisexual. And there's a difference, because the way that you guys sexualize lesbians in media is really annoying. And I was just happy to see a genuine relationship in The Rubber Woman with 2 women, and one of them was even a ghost. So you can tell where Ryan Murphy's, like, yeah, he's made those gay guys ghosts, but they were alive before in the time that they were talking. I just feel like he gives more respect to gay men relationships than any other relationship, even if it's trans or anything. I just see him only giving more respect, if not his only like care towards the people that look like him, white gay men. And I can't recall a single couple that's gay that is ethnic. I really can't. Can you guys? Link it in the description if you can. I would love to know. But that's the end of Hotel. I'm done talking about Hotel. Number 6 is Roanoke. And ironically, that's the 6th one he made. I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a 5 out of 10. It's terrible. I respect the attempt that he made to make a story within a story. But it just fell short. And I like that woman that played the Angel of Death in Asylum. I don't remember her name, but she's in the double feature, and I like that. But like I said, like too many Anglo-Saxon faces. Like, where are the ethnic faces? Can we have ethnic faces, please? Like, I just don't understand why. It's super annoying. The only Asian person I saw was in Game Over and the Rubber Woman, where she was like, I gotta go see my brother. Like, she only said like 2 words. It was just like, okay, whatever, Ryan Murphy, whatever. You can play games or you can get something done here. But Roanoke is, yeah, it's in North Carolina and whatnot. I feel like I only like it. I only have respect for it because North Kakalaki's my home. So I just feel like I have like Cherokee roots there, and this story could have went so much further than he actually let it go. And I think that maybe if he had more like Native American people in the writing room, it would have seemed less ridiculous. This was kind of ridiculous, and I want to know why. And it's just like, okay, I can understand the cultural unrest that would have happened if a white man, Ryan Murphy, made Native Americans the ones that were attacking people. But it would only make sense because they are spirits that are unrested. So why would the white people, then the girl that's supposed to be the first supreme or whatever, helps her and gives her like a cow heart, and she feasts on it, the butcher and all that. It was hard for me to even grasp that these Anglo-Saxons had any power, because they already had the power. It's just like you're giving them power beyond the grave. It just was super annoying to me. And like I said, I understand if it was reversed, it would seem really strange. It would just seem like Native Americans are harassing these white people, like, oh, poor white people. But it's like either way, it's poor white people. Like, they're dead and they're like, oh, I'm unrested on poor white people. Like, it's either way, it would be poor white people. So I'm saying it's like, if we're going to go down this road, we might as well go all in. And it would make sense if the Native Americans were the ones that were like, oh, well, get off our property, get off our land, because this is our land. And then you've got these Hoboken bunkin rednecks in the middle of it. It's just like crazy. It's a crazy season. 5 out of 10. I barely remember it. There's one black girl, and then there's 2 black people because there's the actress. There's 2, literally, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s up in here, and some other dude that they never use again, which I think he's a very good actor. Cuba Gooding he went to American Crime Story to play OJ, and I think it was hilarious because he's got that mentality where he's like, oh, I'm not black. I'm who y'all think I am. Like, he's got that same mentality as OJ, so I thought it was very appropriate for him to play OJ, even though he looks nothing like him. But Monica Lewinsky, that whole situation it's not like it's a crime. It's a crime. Stepping out of your marriage despite all the people that do it, it's a crime. You just don't get prosecuted for it. So I'm interested in seeing what comes of that show, because I was fine with the Andrew Cunanan one. Was the most scared. That was the scariest one, because he was like someone who was assimilating among regular people and killing people and whatnot, while OJ, he did it. I know he did it, and if he didn't do it, he paid someone to do it. So I'm just whatever. With this American Horror Story, he needs to dedicate himself. He's spreading himself too far. He's trusting the wrong people, because from Roanoke, it just gets worse. Seventh on my list is the 8th installment. It's 1 out of 10. Just to say before we get into it, it's 1 out of 10. Apocalypse. Yeah, you brought back all these people. Yeah, you brought back Queenie. Yeah, and all that. And then you do stuff, and then things happen, and then, oh, that never happened. And then Jessica Lange gets to come back. I think that's really cool. And she's like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to come back again. So don't ask me. If you go back to Freak Show, then you better get somebody to stand in. Like, she's not going to, I don't know if she's going to come back or not. Like, if the money's ripe. But he's spreading himself too thin. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to be able to bring back what once was in Murder House and Asylum and Coven, even in Freak Show. Those are the four mighty ones that are just the best. Hotel is when it drops. And if it wasn't for Lady Gaga, I do believe that people would talk about how Hotel was one of the worst. But there are so many worse ones than Hotel. Roanoke is really bad. Like I said, I think Apocalypse has to be the worst. But the only reason why it's not the worst is because he created Cult in 1984. And those two were tied for last because they're both a 3 out of 10. And Cult started okay. It started okay. Then it got cringe. It was no longer camp. It was cringe. The ending was better than the beginning. And then I was disappointed. I was disappointed because the whole thing is just trash. And it's not because it was about like Hillary and all that and Ronald Rump. It was just the fact that the acting was so cringe. Sarah Paulson is the only one that I actually thought was like a good actress. And Leslie Grossman, or not Leslie Grossman. What's that girl's name? Is it Leslie Grossman? She's Leslie somebody. She's also in the double feature. She was in 1984, which I didn't like her in 1984. I liked her more in Cult than in 1984. 1984 it was really terrible. Everybody was gross. Cody Fern was the only one that I could actually like, and then they kill him off. Yeah, he's a ghost, but they kill him off nonetheless. And then they bring Flynwood Rockwood, what's his name? Whatever that dude's name, that was the vampire in Hotel. He comes, and then that dude, that's the Twisty the Clown. He comes in, and he's like some dude, but it's super annoying. That whole season was annoying. It was useless fodder. Literally, it was useless fodder. 1984 is like, it's cool for like like he's just starting to make prom themes at this point. He's making prom themes. And last but not least, double feature. I have no idea how it's going to be. My hypothesis is it's going to be very interesting because what's his face? Macaulay Culkin has joined the cast, but again, another Anglo-Saxon of the Caucasus Mountain. There are other ethnicities out there. Ryan Murphy. You don't have to just be like, and then if you guys want to play the stupid dum-dum games where you want to enforce this, it doesn't matter, and he's just choosing based on acting prowess, I know that's a lie. Because a lot of people can't act. And they can act better than you don't know that? We don't know that. We'll never know that because we don't get to see it. I know for a fact that he had a lot of ethnic people in Pose, a lot of light-skinned people in Pose. Yes, a lot of light-skinned. There were only like 3 dark-skinned characters that were of the main cast, and they were always put in a negative light. They were always put in a drugged-out light or a very aggressive light or a very disrespected light at all times. And I repeat, at all times. That was how Pose went. So seeing almost little to no ethnicity, even Asian people. I can only recall one Asian person in this entire show. And not even, like, I don't even recall in American Horror Stories, I remember that Asian girl and her brother, and then that dude in the Hype House fiasco situation, that fake bro house thing. That's all I remember. There are other people other than just white and black. There are Native American people. There are, like, so many. Like, I'm not going to sit here and hold however old this man. He looks very old. So I'm sure he's in his 50s or something. So she should know this. People talking about, oh, I need to grow. I need help. Like, you need to help yourself and get it together. But that's it, basically. I'll go down the list one more time because I've said a lot. My first favorite, Coven. My second, Asylum. Third, Murder House. Fourth, Freak Show. Fifth, Hotel. Sixth, Roanoke. Seventh, Apocalypse. Tied for last, Cult in 1984. For real. Honestly, that's it. American Horror Stories was a mess. It's trash, and nothing he can do will make me think that the next season isn't going to be the same trash and fodder and garbage. The only thing I can assume, which I assumed this before and I was wrong, is since he's wrapped up Murder House, we will not be going back to Murder House. Hopefully we cannot talk about Murder House anymore and just leave it be. You want to suck the teat that's already dry. It's dust, okay? Are we going to go to Asylum? Are we going to go to the freaking orphanage that Pepper grew up at? Are we going to do something that has to do with other things that were great? We don't have to go back to know, like, why can't we go to the black girl's witch house? Like, why can't we go to the black coven? The voodoo house, at the very least, because you think that black witches are only voodoo, like, even though, like, that's not the case all the time. I would have been fine with, like, a voodoo house. But you know what? I'm done talking. Subscribe if you like if you like, share if you like. I stream on Twitch, the Princess of Darkness, underscores between all the words. I'm playing We Happy Few right now. Look under the gameplay playlist and you'll see all of the games that I've played and my game nights, which are just a collaboration of crazy things that go on whenever I play a game with my friends or by myself. Done.